So we're going to mention some of the struggles and sacrifices we have to make when we started off making our business. So first of all, we'll go over some of the struggles that we had whilst growing the business and trying to maintain a normal lifestyle.
It's obviously a big struggle with time. So you're often going to be working a job because you need money, you need to be able to survive. Now, time is obviously an asset, and you need to be able to sacrifice other things in order to make more time. So for example, when you come home from your 8-hour shift, you then work another 8 hours on your fucking business. That's literally just how it is.
Were you struggling to get motivated to do that? Or
no, because I had an end goal in mind and I knew how I needed to get there. And that was by working 16 to 18 hour days every single day.
And I guess we're quite both physically active, so that delayed gratification kind of aspect does kind of come in, which is definitely what you needed. You need to get the discipline to allow that delayed gratification and kind of like trust the process.
Yeah, it's discipline for sure, but also I think if you want it that much, you will make it happen.
Yeah.
So there's zero excuse when it comes to like, oh, I can't get out of bed, I'm not motivated enough. Like, clearly you don't want it then. You don't want the lifestyle. You don't want a business. You don't want to do this. You don't want to succeed.
But that is one thing people have personally, I believe, is people struggle finding an objective or a reason to get up and do work. So try to find a belief, and that's going to help you get up and go do work. We didn't have that struggle, but lack of time can obviously cause that struggle to happen. So another struggle that we had with creating a business is the personal branding side of things. So I don't know about you when you started filming and recording, but we are like massive introverts. Is that the right one? Yeah, introverts. So we don't really want to talk on cameras. We don't like going out talking to people. Well, quite frankly, I fucking think they're very annoying. So we prefer just to stay inside and work long hours. But obviously, that's not how business works. That's not how you become successful, by sitting behind a desk for hours and hours and not chatting to anyone. So that was quite a big step, wasn't it? Personal branding.
Yeah, 100%. But I think that we just knew it was the way to go. And it's basically, if you look at any sort of famous businessman, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, they have massive personal brands built around them. And then no matter what they bring out, it's going to succeed because they just have that personal brand about them. And it's fucking, they just have a big business instantly just because they started it. I think the main thing that really motivated me to start a personal brand and actually start speaking on camera was because we're doing OnlyFans management, and we're basically asking of models to produce content, and it can be frustrating if they don't deliver that content. But if we're not delivering that content for ourselves and for our business, how on earth could we be not annoyed by it, because you can't really be annoyed for someone not wanting to do content on OnlyFans, but you're demotivated by the fact that they won't produce that content. And if you won't produce that content for yourself, then I saw no excuse not to start a personal brand.
Yeah, exactly that. And as well, they say do things out of your comfort zone, because that's how you're going to grow. So obviously that's what we had to do, really, is to step up and up our game in the business realm to be able to succeed to higher levels, which is what we're doing now. Another struggle that we may have had near the start was just the speed of how things work. So obviously you put in a lot of work and you expect results like that instantly. You want your results as soon as you finish doing the work, but that's not how it works. The compounding effect is a massive thing, and it's what you need to realize if you're quite new to the industry or new just to business. You get something, you make something, you put it out there, and you start doing the general processes to make it succeed. You may not get results straight away. You've got to wait a while, and in a month you may start seeing results. In 2 months, then results most likely have doubled. 3 months, probably quadrupled. It's a slow process, and especially in OFM, you've got to get the model to be, you need to allow the model to be aware that everything doesn't happen overnight, and it does take a little bit of time.
100%. I think that we realised this massively when we started YouTube channel, for example. You don't actually start getting views instantly on YouTube until that audience actually grows. So even the beginning of our videos, the first ones would only get 10, 20 views. Like, literally it's pathetic. You're like, why the fuck are we uploading this? But then months down the line, when you've gained a couple hundred subscribers or whatever, or followers or viewers, whatever, then that starts to show in your earlier videos. So they'll start to compound even on your earlier videos. And that's a great thing about YouTube, actually, is that they still promote your old content. So it's not just the new stuff, they also promote the old stuff.
Yeah, which is why it's just really useful just to get as much content or as much work done as possible without having to see the results. And it's similar with OFM, because you kind of look back at untouched customers or something on your model's account, and you realize that you can reuse them and refilter them through. So just learning the business strategy, it wasn't much of a struggle for us because we have previous business experience, but finding new strategies and new ways to progress the model's account was slightly harder, because obviously the market research that was required, and doing that market research was slightly harder than just watching a YouTube video, because obviously this isn't a very popular business, OFM.
Yeah, no one really knows about it, and I think that was one of our main struggles, is that you can't just instantly grasp viewers. You almost have to persuade them into your business model first, which is like just 10 times the work. Whereas if you're starting a channel about fucking drop shipping, it's going to be a lot easier because it already has the viewer base there and the knowledge about the business. So yeah, it's a lot harder for us to actually build up an audience. However, we saw results in terms of personal brand, building up an audience, and delayed results. And as Toby was saying, it just massively compounds over time.
Obviously, to get to the stage we did, there was sacrifices that had to be made, like such as going out on the weekends and drinking. I don't think we drank for about 9-10 months or something when we were setting that up. Yeah, so obviously if you're drinking every night, it's harder to do research. It's harder to obtain information, especially if you're trying to learn. So try to decrease your drinking because it does dumb you down a bit. And you definitely do start to realize that when you haven't drunk for a few months. So that is one thing I'll definitely try and avoid: drinking, going out, and staying up late.
Not just to free up time and to actually clear your mind of alcohol, etc., but also from a financial side. You're spending hundreds of quid a month on alcohol, smoking. I was smoking, all this type of bollocks. And realistically, you don't need that money coming out your bank every single month if you're struggling to start a business and you need extra funding. Can't be complaining about, I don't have money to start a business, but then go out spending 500 quid on just bollocks every month. It's a sacrifice that has to be made, not just for your mind and to free up time, but also from a financial perspective as well.
Yeah, that's actually one thing I did realise about myself, is I was willing to go out drinking and stay up at 2-3 o'clock in the morning to go out to the club and shit. But then I wasn't willing to do that for work, or I was saying, why wouldn't I be willing to do that for work? So that's why I started doing it for work rather than going out. So I was willing to stay out for happiness. I wasn't willing to stay out to work. Same with money. I was willing to spend money on drinking to get them quick dopamine hits, but then I wasn't willing to spend money on education, which was only going to benefit me in the long run. So it's, once again, it's getting used to that late gratification, spending the money on something else so you get a reward in the long run, rather than spending money on a night out and drinks and then in the morning feeling like shit.
And it sounds like a lot. You're probably thinking, oh, so you're telling me I have to quit drinking, smoking, going out, making friends, chasing girls, plus I have to work 18 hours a day. Probably thinking, what the fuck? What's the point? But now we're literally self-employed. We can do whatever the fuck we like. We can work when we want. Obviously, we still put the work in, don't get me wrong. However, it's a lot less than 18-hour days. And it's a lot less of a struggle than what we were doing in the first place.
Exactly. Plus, you get used to it. You get used to them 18-hour days. And then when you do get a bit more successful, you've got some automated processes going. Your model was making money whilst you're just in bed, sleeping. Then you're going to realize that you have a lot more freedom compared to when you had to go somewhere to be able to get the money. You don't have to do that anymore. You just get the money in by the processes you set up and that you've got efficient in. And it's just so much easier and less stressful for your mind.
I agree. And it's obviously now we have the lifestyle that we would have wanted to have at the start. So it's all paid off, and it will pay off. It's not like you're going to be working 18-hour days and you're not eventually going to see some type of result, because you are. It's just guaranteed to happen. You just don't want to actually put the work in.
Exactly. And even if you did end up spending them 18 hours a day on, let's say, OFM, you've learned a lot of marketing, you've learned so much more stuff, and you come out with experience, which you can then apply somewhere else. So the sacrifices, I would definitely say, are worth it. Obviously, it takes a bit of time. Don't quit, like you obviously always hear. But yeah, they're kind of just the problems and the sacrifices that we had. Our friends group is definitely a lot smaller now than it was.
Oh yeah, 100%.
But then it's more loyal.
It's compact, and it's full of people that are actually worth having around, rather than like just random blokes who you've known for a while and aren't really going anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. So other than that, that's about it. You got anything else?
I always get a lot of people saying, you need to enjoy your younger years and shit like that, and tomorrow isn't guaranteed and shit like that. But to me, that's just a horrible excuse for not wanting to put the work in. Because they say tomorrow's not guaranteed and shit like that, to basically say go out and party and do whatever the fuck you like, be a little degenerate. But I would rather die tomorrow with people knowing that I had a bright future, rather than die tomorrow people thinking, oh, he just went out drinking every night, he wasn't really going anywhere anyway.
Yeah, lost cause.
So even if I was going to die tomorrow, I would still sit at my computer and be fucking working, because that's just what I do now.
And it's the regret as well. If you did die tomorrow, what are you going to do? You're going to look back and you're not going to be happy because you haven't done anything. You're just going to, oh, well, went on the piss the last few days. Pretty good.
Yep.
Like, you're not really missing out on much if you do. And that's another thing, actually. Missing out on much. You think you're sacrificing a lot. You think, oh, I'm missing out on this good night out. But when you realise that you're doing the work, you've just achieved this, this, and this in the last week, you go ask the person that has gone out, which you would normally go out with, say, oh yeah, what happened at the weekend? Nothing really. Or I can't really remember, I got too pissed. So you think you're sacrificing it. But most of the time, you're not. There's not actually a sacrifice there to be made. It's just...
Yeah, and not only that, but think of your future in 3 to 5 years' time. You're going to be 10 times what you would have been if you carried on drinking and doing all this stupid shit. You're going to be 10 times in front of where you are. So therefore, you're going to be able to do these types of things that you wanted to do in this current moment. But you're older, you're richer, and you're having a better life anyway. So it's not even really a sacrifice as such. You're just putting in the work to be where you want to be, which, if it is where you want to be, shouldn't be a problem at all.
Exactly. So yeah, probably had enough of our preaching on how to do life. But these are the things that are just required, I'd say, just to, when you're starting a business. If you want that business to be successful, especially if you're working alone, then you can't be doing that shit.
Yep, I agree.
Exactly.